The lantern in Eli Cotter's hand trembled so badly he almost dropped it. The flame jittered inside the glass, spitting shadows across the yard like nervous fingers clawing at the dirt. The Kansas night was unnervingly still. No wind. No crickets. No coyotes calling from the flats. Just silence. Before we start, subscribe now so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. Oh, and before we dive in, tell us in the comments where you are watching this video from. We love hearing from you and always read every message. The kind of silence that felt watched. And then, he heard it again. Please, I am begging you, untie it. The voice slid up from the ground, from the locked storm cellar buried at the edge of his yard. Eli stiffened, breath stuck like a stone in his throat. That door hadn't been touched in 15 years, not since his father chained it shut with iron links thick as a wrist. He'd sworn never to open it. Every Cotter boy was warned. Every Cotter man carried the same rule. Tradition. Obedience. Survival. His father's words had been carved into him like scripture. You keep that chain fastened, Eli. You keep it fastened if you want to live. But this wasn't his father's voice. Number. This one was broken, desperate, choking on every syllable. It bled suffering. It clawed at Eli's heart in a way his father never could. He stepped closer, lantern lifted, boots crunching in the dust. The chain glistened in the glow, scarred with rust, heavy as a sin. It twitched once, metal rattling, though no wind stirred. Eli jumped back, rifle half raised. His heart hammered so loud it drowned the night. It hurts. Please. It's choking me. The words cracked with torment. Not an animal, not an echo. A man, or something so close to human it fooled his bones. Eli's mouth went dry. Sweat streaked his temples. His father's warning battled the sound of agony rising from beneath his own land. The Cotters had kept secrets. Ugly ones. Maybe this was one of them. Maybe this was worse. The lantern flickered harder. His knees weakened. For the first time in years, Eli Cotter wanted to run. But he didn't move. Because the chain rattled again. And this time, the voice whispered his name. Eli Cotter didn't sleep. Couldn't. He sat hunched at the kitchen table until the lantern burned down to smoke, his rifle across his knees, eyes locked on the window that faced the cellar door. The voice hadn't spoken again, but its absence was worse than its pleas. Silence pressed against the house like a weight, smothering, expectant. By dawn, his eyes were red-rimmed, his hands shaking. He stepped outside, squinting into the gray morning. The land was dry, cruel, as if it had stopped trying to live. Fences sagged, cattle bones jutted from the hardpan. His herd was down to a handful of thin, rib-showing beasts. The Cotter spread had once been proud, his father's pride, and now it was rotting in Eli's hands. The neighbors whispered. He knew they did. Folks in Dodge City said the Cotter place was cursed. Said Eli's wife Sarah had left not because she'd grown tired of him, but because she was afraid. He remembered the night she packed, her voice hard as flint. You don't talk, Eli. You don't feel. You don't even try. There's nothing left here but ghosts. Ghosts. He almost laughed at the word now. His boots carried him back toward the cellar. He stood over the chained hatch, the padlock dull in the daylight. The earth around it looked unsettled, cracked, as though something inside had been pushing against it for years. He knelt, pressed a palm to the wood. Cold. Too cold for the sunlit hour. He snatched his hand back, heart hammering. From deep below, faint as a breath through walls, came a whisper. Not begging this time. Not screaming. Just a single word. Hungry. Eli staggered to his feet, breath ragged, the rifle clutched so hard his knuckles bled white. Eli Cotter had learned fear long before the cellar ever spoke. As a boy, he'd watched his father coil that chain around the hatch, each loop heavy, each knot deliberate, as if he weren't binding wood and iron but some living beast clawing beneath the earth. His father's face, carved by sun and cruelty, never flinched. "Listen close, boy," he'd said, his hand gripping Eli's neck so tight it hurt. "You break this chain, you break our blood. Cotters don't weep. Cotters don't falter. Cotters don't forgive. We bind what must be bound, and we never let it free." That creed became Eli's marrow, a life stripped of softness, where silence was strength and kindness was weakness. Now, standing in the barn's gloom, Eli could almost hear his father's boots pacing, the scrape of a belt sliding from a loop. Nights of discipline burned into memory. No matter how hard Eli worked, his father's voice spat the same refrain. "You'll never be half the man I am." He'd sworn he'd never be that kind of man. But looking at the dying ranch, the empty bed where Sarah once slept, Eli felt his father's prophecy clinging true. The rifle leaned against the stall. His hands trembled as he reached for it. Outside, the cattle shifted nervously, their lowing uneasy, as though they sensed something crawling beneath the soil. Then the voice came again. But it wasn't the hoarse pleading from before. Number. This time it carried a sharp edge, cruel, commanding, an echo of his father's cadence. "Boy." The word cracked through the air like a whip. Eli's chest collapsed inward. Sweat stung his eyes. Was it memory? Madness? Or had his father's ghost been rotting alive beneath that cellar all these years? That night, Eli sat on the porch, lantern dimmed, rifle resting across his lap. The stars burned sharp above the Kansas plain, but the silence below them was wrong. Not quiet. Listening. Waiting. Then it came. "Eli!" His breath stopped. The sound seeped from the cellar, not loud, not even strained, but too clear to be mistaken. It wasn't his father's bark this time. It was softer, familiar. "Please. It's so dark. I can't breathe. I can't. Forgive myself." His chest tightened. Forgive. The word cut him open. Sarah had said the same thing once, her eyes wet with fury when she left. "I can't forgive you for being stone when I needed a man with a heart." And now the voice below was her voice. Not exact, but close enough to twist his gut into knots. Eli rose, feet dragging across the dust. He crouched near the hatch, hand brushing the cold chain. His throat burned. "Sarah?" he whispered, ashamed of himself even as the word left his lips. The answer came quick, trembling. "Yes. Please. Untie it, Eli. You've punished me enough." His stomach dropped. Every part of him screamed it was wrong. Sarah was in town, alive, breathing. And yet, the sound of her sobbing, begging, her voice pleading through wood and iron, God help him, it was real. The lantern flickered. The cattle moaned low in their pens, restless. He pressed his forehead to the hatch, torn between dread and desperate hope. And then the voice shifted mid-sentence, warping back to the raw, guttural tone from before. Hungry. So hungry. Eli stumbled back, rifle raised, heart punching his ribs. The general store in Dodge City was never kind to silence. Gossip filled its aisles quicker than dust on the windowsills, and Eli Cotter had long since become a favorite subject. He felt the eyes on him as soon as he stepped through the door. Men paused mid-pour at the grain bins. Women hushed their talk but didn't stop watching. Eli gathered supplies in silence. Flour, coffee, a coil of rope. But every movement stirred whispers. "Cotter Place is dying," one voice rasped low. "Always was cursed," another muttered. "His old man chained something down there. Everyone knows." Eli's jaw tightened. He tried to ignore it, but the words pressed closer than the dust in his lungs. He felt like a specter, moving through a town that wanted him gone but couldn't stop talking about him. At the counter, the storekeeper leaned forward. "Heard you had trouble with coyotes again, Eli." Coyotes. That was the polite excuse. Everyone in town had heard the noises, strange cries carrying across the plains at night. More than once, a neighbor's boy had claimed to see shapes near the Cotter ranch, shadows not walking but crawling. Eli grunted, tossed coins on the counter, and turned to leave, but a woman's voice stopped him cold. She left you, didn't she? He froze. Sarah's name wasn't spoken, but it hung heavy in the air. The woman's eyes softened, almost pitying. I don't blame her. Who could live out there with that? The room hushed. Eli's fists clenched at his sides. He wanted to shout, to demand answers, but no words came. Just the iron weight of the cellar's secret pressing heavier with every whisper. He walked out into the blinding sun, shoulders rigid. Behind him, the voices rose again. Eli found her standing in the yard when he rode back from town. Sarah, framed against the red dusk, her figure sharp and proud as ever. For a moment, he thought she was only a ghost conjured by the prairie heat. But the way her eyes cut into him proved otherwise. I came for the rest of my things, she said, voice clipped, hands clenched around the leather strap of her satchel. Eli dismounted slowly, unsure if he wanted to step forward or retreat. Sarah. The name scraped out of his throat like he hadn't spoken in years. She didn't answer. Her gaze shifted past him, toward the cellar door, iron chain glinting in the dying light. Her brow furrowed. You've been down there again. He froze. No. The lie was brittle, already broken. Sarah's jaw tightened. Your father poisoned this place, Eli. I begged you to leave it behind, to leave him behind. But you'd rather cling to ghosts and chains than to me. Her words bit harder than any lash. He wanted to tell her about the voice, the pleas, the way it spoke in her tone as though she were trapped inside. But the thought made him tremble. How could he speak it aloud without sounding mad? The silence stretched, heavy, brittle. Then Sarah's face softened, her voice cracking. I wanted to forgive you. God help me, I did. But you've let this ranch swallow you whole. Before Eli could answer, the cellar shuddered. Both of them spun toward it. The chain rattled in sharp bursts, metal against metal, echoing across the flat land. Sarah's eyes went wide. Eli, what have you done? He gripped the rifle but said nothing. His throat was too tight, his heart pounding like hoofbeats. The night came heavy, pressing down like a burial shroud. Eli sat on the porch, rifle laid across his lap, a half-empty bottle of whiskey dangling from his fingers. His lantern glowed weak, casting more shadow than light. He hadn't spoken since Sarah fled earlier that evening, her face pale with fury and fear. Now, only the cellar spoke. The first rattle was faint, almost delicate, like a hand brushing the chain. Then came another, harder, angrier. Metal scraped against wood, a grinding shriek that set Eli's teeth on edge. He swallowed a burning mouthful of whiskey. Stay down, he rasped, though whether he spoke to the voice or to himself he wasn't sure. Eli. The sound slid across the yard, soft as a lover's whisper. His head jerked up. The voice was no longer broken, no longer pleading. It was warm, familiar. Sarah's tone, almost tender. Please, you don't have to be alone anymore. Untie it. We can be together again. The bottle slipped from his hand and shattered on the porch. His chest knotted with longing and dread. He wanted, God, he wanted, to believe it, to believe he could be forgiven if he just broke tradition. The cellar convulsed. The chain whipped against the wood so violently the ground seemed to tremble beneath it. The padlock twisted, groaning, as though turned from the inside by unseen hands. The cattle bawled in terror. Horses in the corral kicked at their stalls, wild-eyed. Even the night itself seemed to recoil. Eli stumbled to his feet, rifle raised, the lantern quaking in his other hand. Let me out, Eli, the voice hissed, dropping low, guttural. You've already set me free in your heart. The padlock popped. Not open, but stretched to its last breath. The chain wrapped tight around Eli's boot, the cold bite of iron dragging him across the dirt. He kicked hard, boot heel slamming into the hatch, but the chain tightened, grinding bone against leather. The lantern toppled, spilling light across the yard, shadows thrashing with him. He tore himself free, breath ragged, but the cellar would not be silenced. The hatch shuddered, boards straining. The padlock bent, its iron throat whining as though something on the other side were twisting it with bare hands. "You can't fight it, Eli." The voice now carried 3 tones at once. His father's growl, Sarah's whisper, and beneath them both, something animal, something starving. Eli's rifle shook in his grip. He could put a bullet through the hatch, put fire to the cellar, burn it out. But the pleading voice clawed at him. "Forgive me, Eli. Forgive me. Set me free." His knees buckled. His whole life had been built on silence, obedience, tradition. And what had it given him? A dying ranch, an empty house, a wife driven away, his father's ghost still barking in his skull. Eli dropped the rifle. His hands seized the lock, his breath ragged, heart hammering so hard it blurred his vision. The chain rattled as though alive, as though it knew. "Damn you," he muttered, whether to himself, his father, or the thing inside he couldn't say. "Damn you all." With a savage cry, he snapped the padlock free. The chain slithered loose, a serpent uncoiling, crashing to the dirt. The hatch exploded upward, knocking him flat. A gust of air, rancid and cold, poured into the night, carrying the stench of rot, rust, and something far older than death. Out of the darkness crawled a shape, human, shackled, but bent and broken, its skin gray and raw, its eyes burning with something that wasn't hunger alone. It fixed Eli with its gaze, and it smiled. It staggered into the lantern's glow, dragging its shackles through the dirt. The figure was bent, its body swollen in some places, withered in others, as though time itself had gnawed at it unevenly. The skin clung too tight to its bones, gray and veined like old parchment. But its eyes, God help him, its eyes were sharp. They gleamed with memory, with recognition. Eli Cotter. Hearing his name in that voice chilled him worse than winter. It wasn't the strained plea anymore. It was calm, confident, certain. He raised the rifle, arms trembling. "Stay back." The figure tilted its head, the smile widening. "Your father said the same. He begged louder than you will. He bound me because he was too weak to finish what must be done." Eli's stomach turned. He'd never heard his father beg. Not once. The thing's chains clinked as it stepped closer, each movement jerky, but deliberate, like it was relearning the body it had been forced to inhabit. Its voice dropped, low and intimate. "I know your secrets, boy. The silence, the shame, the wife who left because you couldn't give her what she needed, the tears you bury in your throat." Eli's finger tightened on the trigger. It laughed, a dry, rattling sound. "I can free you, but first, you had to free me." The cattle screamed from the pens, thrashing against their fences. Horses shrieked, slamming their hooves into the stalls. Even the earth seemed to hum with unease. The figure crouched, tilting its head toward him like a wolf scenting blood. "Do you know what your father traded to keep me bound?" Eli's voice cracked. "What are you?" The smile faltered, revealing teeth too sharp for any man. "I am what your family owed." The creature's shadow stretched across the yard, longer than the body that cast it, crooked like a limb reaching for Eli's throat. He steadied the rifle against his shoulder, sweat slicking the stock. But he couldn't fire. Not yet. The thing spoke with too much knowledge, too much truth. "You feel it, don't you?" it said, shackles dragging in the dirt. "The weight in your chest. The silence choking you. It was your father's gift, and his father's before him. Cold men, cruel men, men who chained instead of loved." Its eyes burned like coal in the lantern's flame. "I offered them a bargain. Bind me and keep your power. Keep your land. Keep your name feared. But the cost was love." Every Cotter heart turned to stone. Eli's hands trembled on the trigger. Sarah's face flashed in his mind, her tears, her voice begging him to speak, to feel. He had failed her every time. The creature smiled. You broke the chain. You broke the curse of silence, but the price remains. Now, it is yours to bear. What price? Eli demanded, voice raw. It stepped closer, breath foul as rot. Suffering. You will feel every lash your father laid on you, every tear your wife shed for you, every wound your silence carved. You will bleed until you learn to love, and when you finally give love freely, it leaned close, whispering, only then will the Cotters be free. The words cut deep, sharper than any blade. Eli lowered the rifle, knees buckling beneath the weight of them. For the first time in years, his eyes burned with tears. The creature tilted its head, satisfied. You've already begun. Then it turned, shackles clinking, and walked into the open plains, fading into the dark horizon as though swallowed by the land itself. Days bled into nights, but Eli couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Sleep never came. When he closed his eyes, he saw the figure's coal-fire eyes and felt its words burning inside him. The ranch changed too. Cattle turned up dead in the mornings, their bodies drained and stiff, eyes wide with terror. The horses refused to graze near the cellar, snorting and stomping as if something still pulsed beneath the soil. Even the wind felt different, sharp, metallic, carrying whispers instead of air. In town, the gossip grew louder. Men spat when he passed. Mothers pulled children close. One old ranch hand swore he saw a chained shadow walking across Eli's fields under moonlight. And then Sarah returned. She wasn't carrying her satchel this time. She was carrying anger, fear, and something else that Eli hadn't seen in years. Pity. You've changed, she said, her voice softer than before. You look broken. Eli's hands shook as he tried to answer. He couldn't keep the tears back, couldn't swallow them down like his father had taught. They spilled hot and ugly down his cheeks. I set it free, Sarah, he whispered. God forgive me. I let it out. Her face went pale, but she didn't turn away. She stepped closer, her eyes brimming. For the first time, she saw him not as the stone man she had left, but as something raw, fragile, human. The cellar door rattled behind them. Both froze. The chains, which Eli had torn loose days before, had coiled themselves back across the hatch. They writhed faintly, like snakes in restless sleep. Sarah clutched his arm. Eli. It's not over, is it? Eli's lips parted, but no answer came. Only the cold certainty pounding in his chest. The night was thick, moonlight smothered by clouds, the yard drowned in shadow. Eli and Sarah stood side by side, the rattling from the cellar growing sharper, faster, like chains pulled by impatient hands. Then came the voice again, but not the man's, not Sarah's, not even his father's. It was small, fragile, a child's. Please, I am begging you, untie it. Eli's knees buckled. He staggered forward as though struck, memories crashing like thunder. His boyhood, nights locked in the barn as punishment, the sting of the belt, the hunger in his belly while his father told him silence made him strong. Sarah gripped his arm, her own face drained of blood. Eli, it's mimicking. Don't listen. But he couldn't tear away. The voice was too real, too innocent. It wept. It gasped. It called his name like a child calling for its father. The chains clattered, pulling taut across the hatch, then loosening, then clattering again. The padlock, bent and broken, now gleamed as though reforged. The cellar pulsed. Eli dropped to his knees in the dirt. His hands hovered over the iron links, trembling so violently he could barely hold them still. It's not just bound, he whispered. It's growing. Sarah yanked him back. No! You've already doomed us once. Don't do it again. The voice rose into a scream. Daddy! Please! It hurts! Eli's soul split. His chest heaved, heart hammering as though trying to rip itself free. Every lesson from his father, silence, obedience, hardness, crumbled under the sound of that child's pain. His fingers brushed the chain. Sarah's sob tore through the night. "If you untie it again, Eli, there won't be anything left to save." The lantern flame guttered, nearly dying. The voice hushed. For one breath, the world stood still. Then the cellar door thudded upward from beneath. Once, twice, a third time, hard enough to crack the boards. Dust shot into the air, choking, blinding. Eli's tears streaked the dirt on his face. He whispered, broken, "I can't let it suffer." The chains slithered loose, iron links falling like dead snakes at his knees. The cellar door creaked open, blackness yawning wide. In the Wild West, every story carries echoes of love, loss, betrayal, and redemption. Tonight's tale reminded us that tradition and silence can chain generations, and that breaking free comes with a price. If you want more haunting stories of the frontier, the kind of love that outlives death, make sure you subscribe to Wild West Eternal Love and ride with us into the next tale.